Today's program is about rendering. That rendering is a term with a very wide connotation. It can be applicable to any other field. Because rendering, as a matter of fact, literally we may say, it means presentation. Another important point that I would like to tell, that when you are using the colors, I must know what colors I must pick up first. So mostly colors are related to the still life. For example, the ochre is there, now the Indian yellow is there, red is there, orange is there, the green is there, and for the darker tones we have, of course, the use of black. The blue is also there, and then the burnt umber is also there. These are the important colors that are, perhaps I think I may be using that, but I have available to me the other shades which I may. If I need, I will pick up from that. Another important thing that generally the students require to keep in mind, when we put the colors, we should be conscious in what manner do we arrange them. We have to follow an order, and order means, I don't mean a set order. The question is, some principle guides us in arranging them. You may have your own preference, I have my own preference, but still every preference is based on some order. Now here, for example, you will see black is on this side, the white is on this side. There are two extremes, from the lighter tones to the darker tones. That is one principle. Another is the warmer colors, the cooler colors. Now this red mistakenly has been put over there, it should have been here. Now we have the warm tones like yellow, red. We have the cooler tones like blue and greens. But I prefer to put blue over here and brown also over here. Though brown is a warmer tone, it could have been kept here, but it is up to you how you find convenient in handling them. But I prefer to use it closer to the black because it is one of the darkest colors after black. So this is my preference, but there are no must about this sort of preference. One has to find his own way, but it should be based on some principle so that you find convenience in handling them. Not like at random you put anyway. When I want to use yellow, I look for the yellow. Now next time when I want to use ochre, now by mistake I may put my hand on another color, orange or something like that. Not like that. They have to be in some order placed before me where I can conveniently use them for my work. So somewhere I have to proceed. Now take for instance, I do from here, it is better, now I must put colors in it at the same time, keeping in mind what effect I am going to use it. And I may change their tones, I may change their visual effect, I may change their intensity of the color, and also using conscious of the other things like cast shadows or other patterns created through the effect of light and shade. I must be conscious how effectively I can use them, but in a different way. So now to proceed, I first of all would like to use this yellow ochre because ochre is the color of this thing. I borrow this color from there. I prepare the color on the palette by using color, mixing it with water. I must know how much of color I may use it, what is the intensity or tonality of the color, that is also in my mind. And here of course I will be using the flat colors because my interest is in design. So design means not decorative design, a composition. So I proceed with what flat color, and I will think how I will use the other tonalities or intensity of color or designs on it or some other effects. So I am taking the main dominating form of the flask and using its color. So I am applying flat colors over it, the surface. So starting with this yellow ochre, the main body color of the flask. I am not caring for the other lines because I can add color over it afterwards. Sometimes the surface creates problems for you. The surface does not catch the colors easily as it's happening in this particular case. But even then I don't bother because these white spots, small tiny spots, that's creating a good textural effect. So I'm not bothered about it. So I continue because I can overpaint also. So I must first add the body color of it and proceed. You may see that at small spaces and I not bothered much about it. So I continue. I would like to add some more color. I hope I find. To get a darker tint of it, I have added a little bit of this burnt sienna and adding to this yellow ochre. So in the subject, as we see, the lower part is slightly darker. I use it for having a different quality. Variety of areas of space within the painting, that also helps you create some interest in the total composition. So this variety may be there because of the variety of colors, despite the variety of forms are already there, and then the textural effect may change. Here I have bigger spots of white. I don't bother. I would like to retain them. When smaller areas are there, it is better to use smaller brushes. If I want to add intensity to this particular area by adding a little bit of darker colors, well, I must do that. These colors are water soluble. Artists sometimes face problems, but we have to go with it and find how best we can exploit it. taking guidance from the effects of light and shade. Now, I don't wish to show the light and shade, but the question is how I can use their effect for my own pictorial quality of the painting or variation, also suggesting the character indirectly and of the object. So I may work further, but first the problem is of the body color, the effect that I am going to retain ultimately and help me achieving the final results. The tonalities have to be kept in mind, where to add the depth and for what purpose. So sometimes the depth is used to suggest the character of that particular part of the subject. Maybe lighted, maybe the effect of the shade, shadow, cast shadow, and of course another part that we see over there is the lid. We have the lower part, the edge of the lid is visible with darker brown. I am using the same, not exactly the same color, but of course the darker shade of this burnt sienna. I am using it here. Just to suggest this part of the lid. I am not going further. I don't want to show the whole of it, but this may be left unfinished and merge with the background over here afterwards. I want to add a little bluish effect in it. Because I see the dust and all that have created an effect of different color. So why not we use it? So I mixed this color, a combination of ochre and burnt sienna with blue. So I think you may see that I am facing some problem. It's not because of any other thing, but one of the surface I am using is the canvas prepared that it's not holding the acrylic colors in a smooth manner as should have done it, but still any artist may face some problem. You can see the white spots are there. Now I have decided, because at this stage I cannot change the medium, I have decided to use these white spots as a quality of the painting. So I proceed with it in spite of these limitations. You may also face it. So I am continuing to proceed with this despite the problem. Now I am coming to the white plate. So I am using the body color of the palette first, a flat greyish white. The lighted area I am using the lighted effect. I have to be careful about the outlines, the contours. I have drawn already, explained already. So I am rubbing hard so that the canvas may catch some color, and unbothered by the problem of this white spots coming up. Also guided by the tonalities of the colors on the main object. So what we see in the natural manner or the representational character of the object is not taboo, because we may use it, retain part of it and modify it as per the pictorial needs of the rendered painting. So this time I have used flat brush because it is helpful in applying stronger strokes so that they can also penetrate the holes of the canvas. And another important thing is, while working, you must keep an overall view of the painting in your mind. Our vision should keep on moving all around, correlate the colors, their intensity, their mutual relationship, because after all it is one painting. So that is very important. So I should not lose sight of the overall view of the work. Painting is just like a building, you slowly build up. So part by part, shifting from one place to the another. So moreover, I am applying, the colors to the surface closer to the other which has already been colored, because it helps me to judge their tonalities, their interrelationship, etc. Now, this form of the cup, lying in horizontal position, I have invented. I am inspired by this cup, its form, but I have created another form of the same cup over here to create a pattern. This is the advantage is provided to me in rendering. So we don't go by the representational combination or effect that we see in the still life, but we also are guided by our own imaginative approach to the same thing. I would prefer to paint the whole of it in one flat color, slightly bluish. I have used cerulean blue. I must retain the form of the handle as separate from the main body of the cup. So I've used a little lighter color over it so that it can be visible as a different thing. Problems are faced by everybody. So we should not get afraid of it. We should try to find out the ways how we can go with the problem and tackle it. So by perchance we sometimes discover new effects, visual effects. It's taking, canvas is taking thick colors in a better way. I can take the white straight away from the palette and apply it. I'm not bothering about the design on the cup. I'll see how can I use it afterward, because these are opaque colors. We can create, if we want to use the design, I may do it over this color that I have already applied on the surface, and my colors are brighter than that. Well, the way I'm using the brush is not the ideal way of using the brush, but it is because of the problem of the surface that sometimes I am rubbing it over the surface in a wrong manner, but I want to gain the desired effect. So this is what we invent, the ways to handle the problem, and sometimes go against the traditional way of our technique and methods. So now I will use this blue over here also, because this will help me break the monotony of this grey that is there. So now over the color that I have already applied over here, I find this will help me balance the use of blue. So taking to this side also. So now I come to the box that is over there, because this is an important color, important form. So it can become very complicated, it can become more intricate, but I think my basic purpose is to explain the technique, to explain the approach to the working for rendering, for a rendered painting. That's my purpose. I may not go to various other details, but the basic approach is there. That is what should be in our mind. I think red I must use. Now, at the same time there is golden color. this color red, it is scarlet. So I have added a little bit of orange. There is no restriction. You have to find out what is the tint that you see in the color that you want to use. So we should mix the colors accordingly and obtain the desirable tint or shade of the same color. Broadly we may say they are all red, but there are various shades of red. Sometimes contrasting colors balance each other because of the intensity, the weight they carry in their tone. In this case, for example, we have blue, bright yellow, ochre, though it is, but of course, naturally, the more intense color can be counterbalanced by another just opposite intense color. Sometimes we can choose that effect. Some artists using very strong colors but perfectly balanced. So I have obtained a darker tone. So we learn by visualizing, by experimenting with these various combinations, mixing of different colors, but conscious of the effect that we want to obtain. It should give you the desired results. You see the color has changed, and I see it is still a more dull shade of the same color that we are getting. I intentionally did it because the area of this showing the thickness of the box that I am painting, this form has to be different from the remaining other red areas. And on the other side, this side is brightened because it is taking more light. It gives me an opportunity to use a lighter tone of the same and brighter tone of the same. So I have preferred to use a little bit of ochre mixed with this scarlet. You see, it is some sort of dull tone of orange that I get through this. It is not orange, but it looks like orange, but in a very dull tone of it, a different variety. Now, coming to the apple. Now I have taken the ground color of apple. You know, there are red spots over it, but beneath it you see there is some yellow. So now it's a different yellow I am first applying. This too much of yellow jar here, orange red. It's one of the, I think, dominating color of the rendering that I find here, but I think other colors will also be there. Here I find that the cup color or form is slightly reflected, and I think to break this too much domination of red, well, I have used this thing, applied a little bit of this grayish, yellowish tone over here to suggest the cast shadow of the cup, but at the same time I have obtained this form to break too much of red over here. This is an excuse to bring a change, break the monotony, or break the continuity of it. Here do we see the reflection of the glazed surface is taking some deflection from the plate. I can soften the effect, intensity of the red with the use of this color being over applied to the lower form. Now you see the brightness of the red has gone. I must avoid using too much of red in it. Already the red is there, so I will keep it to the minimum, using it by applying some strokes following the contours of the apple. It is just like almost a real representational form of the apple, but we have already, as I told you, I will not apply more colors. So I use this thick white over it. It has to be now the same color also has to be used at the other parts of the slices, showing the inner pulp of the apple. We have another slice vertically arranged over the cup, fixed on its wall. As you sometimes find slices of lemon fixed on the glass of some juice or something like that in the hotel, served in the hotel just for a beautiful effect they create. So we add some features, but connected with it through our memory of other experiences. This structure of the jar, part of this over here, I've created a form differently in balance with it. Also breaking the monotony of this, too much of empty space. So this is how I have tried to do. This is the purpose. So I am applying only the ground color. And then the brown of the lid, the color, its intensity, its tonal value, the depth, all these things. So I am now treating the background, because the effect of the forms, colors used have to go in correlation with the background. I have taken the green of the background. I have also taken the effect of the depth of this green that I see created by the cast shadows or lack of the light over there in some area. So they help in projecting the main group of still life over there. Here they are helping me in projecting this group of the recreated forms together, what you call, or what we may call as rendering. The white spot seen here and the white spot seen in the background also. So it's an overall textural effect we find. So even in this rendering, the suggestion of the still life is very much there. So if the suggestion of still life is there, the suggestion of certain other factors like background, foreground, and the feeling of space, depth, that also goes with it. Pictorial effect. That is the main thing, because mainly it is the pictorial effect. That is our purpose, that is our guiding principle and the guiding goal. So here, for example, I have used a little brighter tone of it, or because after all the area, the lower area of the painting suggests the area closer to you, closer to the viewer. So that feeling must be there, the feeling of space must be there. So these are certain fundamental things. I think we have to be conscious. What I have done or what I am doing is not actually the finished painting, but the process of rendering, that is what is the basic purpose of my work here today, and I am trying to explain, demonstrate the various aspects of the painting, the various parts of it, the various parts of the total surface. The white wall, the grey stones are there, I must use them. Likewise, here too, I must apply some color, because too much of white over here will be disturbing, and I think the white contrasted with this green is adding to the intensity of green, which is not very much desirable to that extent as it is. So a little treatment of this white surface with the grey stone helping me in reducing the intensity of the green color. So this is how, without touching green, by the use of another color, we sometimes reduce or heighten the intensity of another color. Though it may not be a very thin layer of the skin, which is red or reddish. Now I must, of course, using now another medium, that is a sketch pen, because I want a line, I must add it, so I must demarcate it. So suggesting that this is not only a semicircular form, but it is a slice of the apple. So darker tone of this I am using here. So this also demarcates the border or the contour. So we can use the devices. There is no restriction on using another medium to achieve a desired pictorial effect that you have in your mind. Though normally we do it in the same medium, and I would have wished to do it here, but because of the limitation, because the canvas is not catching the color properly, the smooth line might have been difficult. Here too, for example, I can use some abstract pattern like this to break this monotone layer with blue. It's of course inspired from there. The designs, they help me create an interest in the surface, over here or over here. So they also differentiate between this and that. Likewise, here too, for example, a fine line of the depression of the apple's top is there. Now this I can achieve with this sketch pen. I would have preferred to use the color with my brush, but I know the limitation of the brush at the moment. Now here too, this is a divide between the skin of the apple and the interior of the apple. I think it is better to use a little bit of darker tone so that we can better appreciate the shape of the apple and the suggested slicing of the apple through this. Now see, I am using this sketch pen with a different type of treatment like crisscross or doodlings. Now they create some effect, textural effect like that, but my basic purpose is just to give a tonality, a bright red tonality to the apple itself, also heighten the effect of the slight size like that, so it becomes clearer that apples have been sliced and slices have been used elsewhere. So these are some devices. What I think you are supposed to understand from today's demonstration is the process. Whatever we do, what is the purpose of that? This is an additional advantage, I think, of today's demonstration, that despite the problems, how we have tackled them and how to exploit the effect created by problems to our own pictorial ends. That is important. At times we all may face some problem like that. It may be different problem. So this is very important, and I think I'm trying to proceed with the same idea. Now this blue, for example, these are the devices. They originate from our mind, but actually not from our mind, from the necessity of the objects or the forms that we are doing here. Now, for example, here too, I am using this pen to demarcate the areas. The same thing I may do over here. So when I am doing this, many other things might be happening in your mind that I should have done it like this, I would have done it like this. If you feel, you should not be afraid of doing that when you work yourself. But here at the moment, I am working with whatever I have before me. I paint this figure over here of 4 as it is, because it's a different thing, a different form, one way, and also because it is also breaking the monotony of the grey form of the cup, as well as this, also balancing. Now, well, You may see some seeds over here. When you peel off the area, well, suggesting the actual form of the slice of the apple. Sometimes these representational features do help us. I think wherever we need defining the form a little better, we should not be afraid of using this. Now, wherever I feel some clarity is required in some areas, I should not be afraid of using these devices. Though I wish when you paint like this, you may proceed with the brush and the colors. It's only in case of emergency that when you face some problems, as for example here I had to, we have to take recourse to such devices. There is nothing wrong in it, because ultimately, as it goes, necessity is the mother of invention, and nothing is final in the world. So sometimes we are compelled to go off the track, take up some new method, new devices to tackle the problem, and thus we also discover the new ways, the new means. Now this is a sort of design I have created, because ultimately the flatness of it was not very appealing. So one has to work on himself or herself to find out, to discover some new ways, new means, and new methods, new techniques. I have created a texture, not only the texture, but also a different tonality to this whole greyish surface of the plate. So this helped me in giving, in projecting the other objects, in defining the contours of the other objects, adding depth to it, or adding a contrast in relation to the other areas of it. So that way, this is quite helpful. For example, I may well go over here, this piece of the handle, if I want to project, you see how this is projected with a little addition of this tone. It's not only helping me give a projection to the handle, but at the same time, here you will see, this also helps me in giving a projection to the form of the apple. So these are the smaller things, but very important things. We can do or decide about them only at the end of the painting, that is while finishing. Once I have taken this brush with a darker tone of green, well, I use it just to give a better projection to the forms over here, but I don't give a flat. I am applying the strokes in a very rough, unregulated manner to create a textural quality as well as the depth to the subject, or the painting I should say. These effects, with suggestions of objects, with suggestions of depth, with suggestions of space, with suggestions of intensity of light, intensity of color, with its all variations. But they should be maintained along with the other basic purpose, that the total design value of it should go on increasing with whatever we do. So these are small things, but important things. Now by touching over here, I have made the contours soft. Now sometimes it is essential that a particular area, the softness of it gives you better effect. Now for example, I will explain. Now this area of the cup that I have shown tilted horizontally is in the background, and it's all surrounded with a dark background. It is behind the apple. Now this area must reflect the feeling of some depth. And in the darker areas, naturally the contours become soft. So this little more of touching with it, making it softer, darker, I think is helping me in achieving this effect. The innermost area is supposed to be darker because ultimately the character has to be shown. Now how you do it? Apply color, apply some rough strokes, or anything else that you want to do. It's up to you to decide. Nothing is final. What I have explained or I have done is not final. You may be able to discover it yourself what you want to do. So this is actually, you must keep in mind, everybody who works, he has to work his own ways, he devises his own ways through his experience of handling the forms, handling the colors, and handling of the tonalities, handling of the space. All these things, you will have to learn yourself, discover yourself, and try to analyze what you do and find out what effect you have achieved, what is good in it. Maybe sometimes you may be dissatisfied, but you may find that some weakness is there, something is lacking in the work, but never be disheartened, because the next time when you do another painting, you will certainly do better, certainly you will achieve better results, and I think greater success. And this is what is my message to all of you viewers, that don't get disheartened. Whatever you face, try to make the best use of it and exploit it for a better pictorial and aesthetic effect in your work. Wish you good luck. Thank you.